a scary situation in Dallas. Jerry Jones reportedly involved in a minor car accident last night. He was taken to a local hospital as a precaution. Cowboys executive VP and Jerry's son, Stephen Jones, said in a text message to sources last night that his father is back home and, quote, all good. Skip, let's start with you on this one. What's your reaction to this?
Shannon Sharp. I sat back in awe watching this unfold last night because all of our major sports news outlets did major stories following what became a non-story about Jerry Jones in Dallas. It was a minor traffic accident. It reportedly said that he was taken to the hospital for observation, quickly released, and was home just resting fine and well.
Right.
So thank God nothing happened.
Right.
It was a non-story that became a major story, and I checked right before the show started. It was still the #1 story on ESPN.com because it features Gerald Wayne Jones Jr.
Yeah.
He is the biggest lightning rod figure to me in all of sports. You can argue he's the most recognizable figure in all of sports. You can argue that in notoriety, which can be fame or infamy, that he rivals Tom Brady as the biggest face in the National Football League.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting back last night watching this unfold thinking, Jerry has arrived as far more famous nationally and internationally than any of his Dallas Cowboys, America's team, right? Way beyond Dak or Zeke or name them.
But
right?
that's what he wanted.
That's what he wanted. So thank you for that transition, because I was there in 1989 when he bought the Dallas Cowboys. And I was writing a book on the rise and fall of Tom Landry. And remember, Jerry fired Tom Landry and brought in his quote-unquote good friend, Jimmy Johnson. They played together at the University of Arkansas.
Skip, not to cut you off, which happened first? Did he fire Tom Landry and hire Jimmy, or had he hired Jimmy before he fired Tom?
He had already told Jimmy that they were a package deal.
Okay.
He had made that clear to the former owner, Bum Bright, who, by the way, chose Jerry Jones as the least of the bids. They had 5 big bids, and his was the worst bid. But Bum Bright told me for my book, I chose Jerry because I kind of liked him, #1, but I loved the fact that he was the only one of the bidders who said, I'm going to fire Tom Landry and bring in my own guy, Jimmy Johnson. And Bum Bright didn't even know who Jimmy Johnson was at that point because he wasn't much of a football fan.
Think about what you said, Skip. Think about what you said. Tom Landry was a god in Dallas.
He was a god, but Bum Bright despised Tom Landry because Tom wouldn't give Bum the time of day. Even at the annual Christmas party, he would cold shoulder him and stiff arm him, and Bum tried to sidle up to him and have a little conversation. Nope, not with Mount Landry. Nope, you're not going to get it back.
No.
So here was Jerry coming new to this whole ball game and sat down with me immediately for my book. And we talked listen, seriously, over 100 hours I talked to him through that 1989, that first year, the 1-15 season. And his message to me was, I was so bored in the oil and gas business. I'd lost my shirt, then regained my fortune. That I wanted to do something I would be recognized for. I wanted to become known. And he was at an oil and gas convention in San Diego. He and Stephen went to Cabo, and they had a few too many the night before, and he was a little hungover, and he read in the San Diego paper that the Cowboys were for sale, and he went to the lobby and made what was then in 1989 it was a long day, like a country-to-country call.
Right.
And he called Salomon Brothers, the broker in New York, and said over the phone to whoever answered, you don't know me, but my name is Jerry Jones, and I'm going to buy the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, this is the steal not of the century. This might be the greatest buy, not just in the history of sports, but seriously, you could argue this is the greatest buy in the history of business in this country. He paid $140 million in 1989 for a team now valued at $7 billion. $140 million, all the way up to $7 billion, which is valued as the most valuable team in all of sports, in all the world, including all these soccer/football franchises that are so famous obviously in Europe, right?
Yep.
Okay, so now your team is worth $7 billion, and the price of celebrity to you is invaluable because you've become it, man.
Yes.
You wanted to become famous, but you're sort of infamously famous,
And
right?
that was the problem, though, Skip. Even though he had all this money, nobody knew who the hell Jerry Jones was.
No idea.
Until he got the Cowboys, and now he became the face of the Cowboys. But it wasn't enough, Skip, because everybody was talking about Jimmy. They was talking about Emmett. They was talking about Troy and Michael. And nobody was giving
credit. It's all about credit.
Hold on. You do realize these guys don't exist without me. I need some of that shine. So eventually he got the courage up. Maybe he had a little courage in his system.
Maybe.
And he fired Jimmy.
He fired him.
So
after 2 Super Bowls?
Back to back, Jack.
Fired the coach?
Name a situation where you fired
Never ever.
And it won't ever happen
again. Thank you.
Exactly.
All right.
So
that's Jerry Jones.
But what Jerry has done, and very few people can do it because you got to be great. You got to be real slick with the tongue. Jerry has convinced the people he's an everyday guy. The guy's worth probably $8, $9, $10 billion.
Well, and he's obviously worth at least 8, right?
Guess what, Skip? Man, Jerry's the type of guy to have a conversation, and he will. You can walk up to Jerry Jones on the street, and Jerry Jones will talk to you like he's been knowing you 25 years. That's how he is.
I told you. Just knowing him that way, I like the heck out of him because I think anybody who's been around him likes the heck out of him.
That's how he is. But Skip, the other owners, like I said, the most part, Skip, they choose. Okay, I'm a hire head coach. I'm a hire general manager. I'm gonna retreat to the back. Jerry says I'm a hire head coach. I'm a hire general manager, and I will be in front of them. Yeah, I got those. I got those in theory and title, but I'm it. I'm the owner, I'm the general manager, I'm player personnel. Yeah, you can have all those titles, but Skip, this is what he wanted. Now, I'm not saying, Skip, I'm not saying that any other owner being involved in a minor traffic accident wouldn't have made the news. But I don't know.
Not like this.
But I don't know if it's a trending topic making the news when it's just a minor he's been released, he's taken to the hospital and he was later released. Skip, this is who Jerry is. This is what Jerry wanted. Jerry convinced the fan base of the Cowboys, yeah, we didn't get it this year, but guess what? He's above all else, Skip, he's a salesman.
Super salesman.
That's what he is
That's
first.
his greatest strength. Agreed. Okay? He tried to convince everybody the draft that they just staged and held in impact is as great as the Micah Parsons draft. And I'm like, how, where, why? But a lot of people are buying it, right?
But Skip, that's the Cowboys.
Okay.
Because you know good well, there's not one player in that draft that's going to have the impact, of Michael Parsons.
Okay. So from his opening press conference, which is called the Valentine's Day Massacre back in February of 1989, when heads rolled because here comes Jerry in, and he thought it was like Christmas morning or Christmas Eve at least. And Cowboy Nation was mourning the quote-unquote death of Tom Landry because he was gone as the coach. And in that opening press salvo, Jerry Jones went so far as to telegraph his intentions. He said, I'm going to know everything about this franchise down to the socks and the jocks. I'm going to be the owner, and I'm going to be the operator of this franchise. And he was immediately dismissed as a hick from the sticks because he was the interloper from Arkansas. This is Dallas, Texas, obviously. He was called Jethro Jones off the Jethro character on the Beverly Hillbillies.
Jethro Bodine.
You want to talk about some thick skin? This guy's got thick skin because he's like, damn the torpedoes, I'm going to do what I do. And it went all the way up to winning 2 Super Bowls, firing Jimmy, taking more credit in, taking over the franchise, convincing everyone that he could win a championship with Barry Switzer, and he pulled that one off. And since then, he hasn't pulled off anything except pulling wool over all of our eyes year after year after year.
But guess what, Skip? He's gained in popularity, or as you said, notoriety, in losing over the last 26 years than he ever accumulated in those 3 Super Bowl wins.
Ever. Agreed. And he does it because he's so available to the media. He does 2 radio shows. What owner does 1 radio show? I don't know one. Maybe you know one. I don't know any of them.
I don't know any.
He does 2 a week. And guess what happens on Undisputed twice a week during football season?
We talked about what he said.
Reacting to what Jerry said, because a lot of it is like cockamamie. It's like kooky Jerry talk. And he's got he's like he's invented a whole nother language where you try to decipher, now what's he talking about?
Exactly. He's so down to earth. People relate to those colloquial sayings that he have. They're so cliches. And you're like, what is skinning a mosquito? What does that have to do with football? What is El Oh, we passed.
El Paso?
Why didn't you just say we chose not to pick the contract?
I told him El Paso. It took me a while. Like, well, what about El Paso?
It took everybody a while. El Paso, why the hell he going to Texas? I mean, El Paso, Texas, he's in Dallas. What does that got to do with anything? But Skip, he's the grandfather. He's the old grandfather. Papa, tell us a story. Yeah. And here Jerry is. And he's told the Cowboy fan story for 27 years. And guess what? Every year they come back to hear another one.
They do. And to me, I feel like he holds me hostage every year.
Yes.
But I can't vote him out. It's not like a public office where let's vote him out. No, we can't vote him out.
That's going to be, Skip, that's a situation where that franchise will always be in the Jones family.
It will.
That's not going anywhere. It's kind of like, I don't believe the Steinbrenners will ever sell the Yankees.
Correct. So after every game, what do I hang on for? What does Jerry say? No owner that I know of does a post-game press conference. He does it in the locker room, or just outside the locker room.
Skip, he speaks before the players does.
He does.
So he's telling. So I wonder what Dak.